kind of take some time today to put some content I've been working on out there anyway, just in regards to integrating AI into your business strategy. It's really been something that's kind of been on my mind since a lot of these AI tools have started to come to fruition and be easier used by everybody. Um, but you see a lot of people going in a lot of different directions, trying to use AI tools and do different things with it. And doesn't seem like anyway, a lot of coordination happening at some more centralized or organizational levels anyway. So that's what this presentation and content is really about. It's how to kind of circle the wagons around, okay, here's what we want to do with AI. Here are some things we think we can do with it. Do some more planning around that and start to measure any kind of progress or success that you're getting out of that. So that's how we're going to spend this next 55 minutes or so, or 50 minutes. And then we'll have some time for Q&A as well at the end. But if you have any questions that pop up during the presentation, feel free to let me know. I will be trying to keep an eye on chat. Let me open the window here. All right, so yeah, I see Justin's just finishing up lunch, so no worries there. Appreciate that. So yeah, like I said, we'll get started here. So today we're going to really walk through four things. We're going to talk about how to understand the way AI is transforming businesses across industries. We're going to talk about some key opportunities for AI in your organizations. Learn to create a strategic roadmap around AI for your business needs, and then discover the importance of using AI responsibly and doing so within a kind of practical guidelines or a guideline set. I guess I should have asked before, is everyone able to see my screen? Is it big enough showing up okay? Perfect. All right. So, we know AI is becoming very prominent in our worlds. You don't need me to go through exactly what it is or talk about how much, it's changing the business. But just in terms of kind of measuring sticks from a survey standpoint. So McKinsey does or has started doing a global survey on AI. This year, they have found that 65% of the respondents in this survey are regularly using AI in at least one business area. It is up from 33% last year. So that has almost doubled in just a year in itself. And this, I should point out, is specifically generative AI. So think about tools like ChatGPT or Claude, Adobe Firefly, things that have become very, very prominent since November of 2022. That is what we're kind of talking about here with this particular statistic. So 65% of respondents are saying their organizations are now using it. And usage in marketing, sales, and operations, which are already high in 2023, has also doubled in the time frame that this survey has been reestablished or resent to the participants. So clearly, we're in a space where, again, there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of just different tools, a lot of things that people can do out there with it. But people are very curious and finding ways to start to integrate it into their work. So we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. Here's some more data that actually came from Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania. They've done some work around generative AI use cases as well. So in this chart or this graph, you can really see a listing of AI use cases. And then that blue bar, the blue percentage there, is how the individuals in the survey rated AI's performance within that use case, right? So in order here, basically, this is sorted in order. The top performing use cases for generative AI in the workplace anyway has shown to be data analyses and analytics. That's probably been my experience as well, just in terms of the way I've used it for different things and I've analyzed different pieces of work or data. But then number two is idea generation and brainstorming, which is probably the number two way that I use a lot of these generative AI tools. And then you get into legal contract generation. Not something I'm getting into a whole lot, but there may be, some of you out there that are doing that or have partners that you're working with or constituents that you're working with that need to do such things. Fraud detection and prevention. And then email generation, really kind of wrap out the top five there in terms of performance. Now that does differ a little bit. You see checkboxes next to some of these use cases out here. So they did a little bit of separation on what are the top performing, and then what are the top use cases that people are using generative AI for. So the use cases that have a checkbox next to it are your top five uh, ways that people are using it, which I found interesting, right? When you start to think about, all right, um, the top use cases are not always the top performing items that come out of this research anyway. So, like I said, I would definitely agree with data analyses and analytics as being up there. But then you can see more of the actual common use cases would be document and proposal writing, personalized marketing, meeting summarization, and marketing content creation. I've used AI and generative AI for pretty much all of those in this sense, and I would imagine some of you on the call here have as well. All right. So I know we got a few folks on the call here. Let's talk about what you're seeing. Thinking about your industry, if you're comfortable kind of taking yourself off of mute, or just putting something in the chat, that's fine too. Where do you see AI already being used within your industry, or if you want to talk about your organization and you can, that'd be great.
I can share some insights.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Lima.
Um, so my name is Bema. I'm in the consulting sphere, specifically in the accounting and finance. So what we've been seeing a lot where AI is used is automating some accounting processes. So one of the tools that we use is to streamline AP, which is any of your invoices that you get, and making sure that it's entered into your QuickBooks or any other accounting system properly, because that can be very time consuming and a little bit of a mundane task. So we've seen a tool that actually helps us streamline it, and it works really well because it can read your invoice and it can actually populate whatever accounting software you're using in a really effective manner. So that's just one example that we've seen.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way of utilizing it and really making your operations faster. I know when I was with Allstate Insurance for a while in our claims department, we started using more digital imaging and AI tools around estimates coming in and being faxed in and things like that to automatically read them instead of having a person, place their actual eyes on a document. It would actually obviously increase speed for cycle time and accuracy of information, right? A lot less, just call it fat fingering, but just, typos and things like that as well. So, and Justin made a comment, I'll pop back to it here real quick. Justin made a comment around how interesting it was that most of these use cases are very high performing anyway. They're all over 50%. And Justin, that was the same exact observation that I had, really kind of looking into this. I said, well, we've got maybe 15, 20, 25 use cases here, but there's only a 10% difference in the lowest performing and highest performing out of this whole group. So it's even on the lowest performing use case in this list, I'd say it's still doing pretty darn good between the 53% on great performance and then 45% at good performance. So interesting observation, Justin. All right. Who else would be willing to talk a little bit about what they're seeing in their industry in regards to AI usage and how they're seeing it being used? Let's see, it says Kirsten. Oh, in the chat, Kirsten says she's using it for brainstorming ideas related to L&D. Perfect. Great way to do it.
Hi, Jason. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, I was just going to say I've been using it a lot for research and using it to support synthesizing ideas together.
Nice. Yeah. Research and synthesizing ideas together. What kind of research are you using? Are you kind of uploading research or just looking up things using it?
No, I'm looking at, I'm looking at how it can support, like where in the past maybe you would have used Google to search for things, how it can
Yeah.
synthesize searches to kind of transcend what you could have gotten before, if you will.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And recently, it's been within the last month or so. Chat GPT actually, well, that tool specifically, you can do this with some others, made some updates where you can also search the internet within Chat GPT, and it's using some of its models along with information that it's able to go out and find for you on the internet, and it provides its source. So if you've used Perplexity or something like that, it's very, very similar to that. But I think that's a great way to kind of think about, all right, how do I make AI or generative AI more part of my workflow? It's like, well, let me go here first instead of just going to Google and try to find, some static content. Let me go here first and try to create something. I think that's a fantastic way to go about it, Jennifer. Thank you. Kirsten, is there something additional you wanted to share?
Industry specific, I think there's, like Jennifer said, whether it's verifying research or doing a little, comparative analysis. But I think I'm wondering, it's the everyday kind of pieces too. And just being able to put something that I think I've got right into Chat GPT to just say, make it a little better, whether like I think Justin talked about an email or whatever it is. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a phenomenal way to go about it. Like I said, is that AI first mindset. It's like, how could I use this tool to level myself up, level up my content materials, or go the opposite direction. I found sometimes that some things that I write or other things that are written are just too like verbose or too like language, like industry language heavy, right? And I'm trying to bring it back down to just more of like common language. You can use it the other way as well, right? It's like, simplify this. A way that I do that is just by asking um to rewrite something at like a 10th grade reading level or a 12th grade reading level, right? It just kind of brings it down to more simplification. So, and Justin, yeah, it's a great prompt. Act as an expert on X, give me feedback on A, and how would you react to B? Exactly. It's a great way to think about this. All right. Any other examples, or we'll move on? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. So, it's probably no shock or no surprise, right? When you start really thinking about AI's potential or really understanding AI's potential. We've seen AI use cases across departments, industries, in various parts of our lives for years. You think about customer service, chatbots and self-service tools. First thing that comes to mind there for me is Siri, Alexa, things that we've had in our homes, probably since like 2016, I think was when we got the first Alexa devices and things like that. So we've had those for a while, but those are different examples of AI that are providing different customer service opportunities for Amazon or Apple or whatever their provider may be. You've got use cases in marketing, right? And this has been happening for a while as well, right? When you think about targeted advertising, if you're watching Hulu and you get something that's like very specific to, something you looked up earlier today, and how do they know that? Well, this is how, right? And this is how they start to put content that matters to you directly in front of you. It's by using AI and personalization. Operations, inventory forecasting and maintenance, HR, doing so with, like it or not, AI assisted hiring and workforce planning, right? So tools like one that I've used in the past, actually, the predictive index uses AI assisted hiring to analyze people's behaviors based on a behavioral assessment and then score them based on score their kind of match or relationship to a job, and then provide an output, a textual output around that individual. So just different ways that it's being used out in this space, and has been being used for a while. It's no AI in the broader sense is nothing new. It's what generative AI and what's really made it out to the public since November of 22 is what is really kind of new and has generated a lot of the buzz over the past couple of years. So as we think about AI's potential, one thing to kind of just wrap your head around anyway, and to maybe simplify this broad landscape, is that all AI outcomes align with one of five capabilities, right? So it's either prediction, classification, language, sensory tasks, or intelligent agents, right? So we talked about prediction, improving forecasting. You can do that on the operations side when you think about inventory, when you think about maintenance, things like that. Classification, you're getting into like sorting data into categories. So probably one of the most prevalent things that come to mind here for me is fraud, detection of fraud. And I experienced kind of usage of this within Allstate Insurance and their special investigations unit, actually classifying different claims in different ways and different people in different ways to start to understand, okay, what's the probability that there is some kind of fraud going on this claim. And it's all about creating that probability number, right? 10% probability, 50%, 90%, just trying to create that based on the classification. You've got language, so generating or processing text and speech. So natural language processing, natural language generation. Those are things that have been out there for quite a long time as well. There's some companies out there that, Stats Inc. is one of them that does it from a sports standpoint, but they create paragraph or just qualitative information based on game performance, right? Like in sports and things like that. So they'll create like an output of a box score or a recap of a box score or something like that, using that information. Sensory tasks, so interpreting visual, audio, and physical data. So Bema, this is one of the examples that you talked about, right? Using, being able to analyze those documents and absorb them in a way that makes it easier for you to work with. And then the intelligent agents. That's really, if you start to think about ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, those tools fall under that intelligent agent bucket. So they are acting autonomously based on data that they've been trained on, and then inputs from their users. Does that make sense? What questions do you have about that before we kind of move on to the next slide here? Everybody's good? Okay. All right, Justin, we're loving your prompts. So if you got more, go ahead and throw them out into the chat. So thanks for doing that. All right. So the next section I want to get into is really kind of talking through at a high level what it looks like to build your AI roadmap. And this is a step-by-step process that you can start to follow that hopefully is easy enough and simplistic enough that you even as a individual business person can start to integrate these things into your own practice, or if you're at a large company or anything like that, can start to integrate these things and talk to your leadership about, hey, here's how we can better prepare ourselves for the change that's coming at us anyway. So we'll flip through some of these steps so you can have a little bit of that information. Here's a quote from a book that I actually enjoyed reading. It's called The AI Bullseye Tactics for Non-Technical Business Leaders. So this book's really about, how to take AI and do a better job of putting it as part of your business strategy, and talks about doing it in a very methodical approach. So if you're into reading, if you're interested in learning more about this topic, this is definitely a book that I would check out. But one of the quotes in here from the author is just around how AI must deliver value, even if it can't promise just how much. So we're getting to this point now where investments in AI and different AI tools are starting to show up, in terms of people analyzing their annual expenses, their costs, and things like that. And much like anything, with investments that you make, leaders expect results. And there's only so long that you can go without providing those results before you start to lose some of the resources, the money, the input, and the priority that you had. So, so this presentation, like I said, is really about how to help protect some of that and to make sure that you're delivering value with whatever you're trying to do from an AI perspective. All right, so the value of a roadmap here. So without planning your AI strategy, it's going to lead to misaligned priorities. So you're not going to understand, or you're not going to know where the right business problems are that you could solve for. What are the most important? What are the most strategic? What might have the most value? And you're not very likely to have the resources that you need to get there. So without, creating a plan from, A to Z, that we'll walk through a little bit here, it's going to give you that perspective of here's what we need, here are the goals that we can go after, here are the metrics that we can get after, and here's how we can scale this if we get there. So starting with a plan is definitely the way you want to go. So as we look at some of the steps here, you've got 5 steps. First is around assessing readiness. So that's really just taking a look at your current organization. What do you have? What can you get better with? And what can we use here from an AI standpoint? Second step is identifying use cases. So start to understand what projects you have out there and align those with key goals. Third step is setting your success metrics. So understanding what key performance indicators can we impact using different AI solutions. The fourth step is testing. So you want to test some small scale experiments or pilot projects. And then 5, if successful, go to scale, right? So you might be in this testing space for quite a while, right? There might be some iteration here that's going on for a little bit longer as well. But something to be mindful of anyway is that there's a big jump from going from test to scale here. And we'll talk through that a little bit. Any questions before we move on to getting into some of these actual steps? Nope. All right. So something I want us to keep in mind here as we start to get into the first step here. So 47% of employees who use AI say their organization has not offered them any training on how to use AI in their job. There's a few different articles, a few different research, and surveys that I've read around this. The number ranges anywhere between like 40% and 90%. It's like pick a survey and you'll get that. I've not been able to find much research that says, our organization is providing a lot of training around AI, or, there's a major problem with people, getting too much training around AI. So really the emphasis here is just making sure we're providing those learning and upskilling opportunities as we think through this process as well. And we'll talk about that in step 1. So step 1 is really all about assessing readiness. So it's just taking a look at your current skills. We just talked about training, right? Do you have the expertise that you need to use AI effectively? Is hiring impacted at all? How might hiring be impacted through your integration or use of AI as well? What do you need to do with that? How do you need to think about hiring differently? The next thing you want to check out or think about is your data, right? So is your data clean? Is it high quality and accessible? So by clean, that means a couple different things. So one, obviously, be concerned about safety and security and customer information and privacy and things like that. So is your data in a position where it is confidential or does not include any identifying information that you wouldn't want to put out or upload into the internet? As one of the more difficult challenges with using existing data and then using it within a tool like ChatGPT, you do need to go through that process of cleaning it or making sure that it is, kind of anonymous in that way. But doing so will be greatly beneficial to your efforts within an AI landscape. And it doesn't just have to be your data. You can go out and use other data from other carriers, other surveys, other research, anything like, if you're out there purchasing data or anything like that, in terms of consumer information, all of that can be used. It just needs to be in a format and in a way that can be used easily and successfully within whatever tool you're trying to use it on. And then the other things you want to look at are, what kind of infrastructure do you have from a technology standpoint? So, do you have access to the tools that you might need to do what you want, right? Thinking about, all right, is it just Chat GPT, or do we need, access into Adobe? Do we need something more that is kind of a high-tech solution? You want to do your own like custom API through Chat GPT? What is the infrastructure that you need to accomplish what you need to what you're trying to go for here in terms of integrating AI in a way that works for you? So a couple key actions here really are just around providing your opportunities with those opportunities, or providing your employees, sorry, with those opportunities to upskill, identifying any technology gaps or data or your skills, and then reviewing key skills and job descriptions. So that's one that's kind of a little bit more of the late to the party, I would say, is really thinking about, now we're bringing in new people, hiring new people. How does that change the skill set of the individuals that we want to have in this organization for the next 2, 3, 5 years? And what does that skill set look like? Does it make some things less important? Does it add some things that you want to think about? Oh, these are really important now, right? So as we talked about, there's a lot that AI can do to help level up your own skills. So just kind of thinking through that, or going through that process of looking at your job descriptions is going to be a healthy exercise. All right. So the second step is identifying high impact use cases. And really, you could probably go back to the third slide that we showed here that had the table of those 20, 25 use cases and their performance. But start thinking about manageable, impactful projects that could be part of your AI strategy or part of your AI plan, right? You want to go kind of on the side of projects that might have a lot of value, or things that you might think are pretty challenging, or have or people in your organization have had a hard time finding a solution for. A lot of times, those kinds of challenges have the most opportunity for something different, for innovation, and really it kind of gives you more space to play in terms of what difference you can make if you want to try to use an AI tool for that. So as you think about those use cases, think about the feasibility, right? Do you have the resources to implement the project? The impact, will the project solve a significant business challenge? And then does it align with your strategic goals, right? So again, the impact and the alignment are going to be how you really continue to get the resources and the prioritization that you need to continue this AI implementation or this AI strategy if you want to get it going. So those two things are going to be really helpful in terms of identifying and clarifying for your business leaders, because those are some of the questions that are going to be asked, or should be asked anyway. All right. Before I go to step 3, what questions do we have? Okay. We're moving on to step 3. So step 3 is really all about defining your success metrics. So you want to make sure that you're identifying how we can impact the business, and try to keep that within the scope of either making your business more efficient, usually involves reducing costs, or making your business more money, generating revenue, right? So if you could keep your success metrics kind of within those scopes, or tie your metrics back to those are great ways to be able to further evaluate your effectiveness down the line, right? And those are also metrics that carry a lot of value, probably with your senior leaders, right? When you really start to think about overall costs and then revenue growth, your leaders care about those two things greatly. You're going to have different people care about cycle time. You're going to have different people care about marketing. You're going to have different people caring about net promoter scores. But pretty much every leader in the organization should care about expenses, and they should care about revenue, right? So making sure that you're kind of aligned with mindsets or those concepts anyway with your KPIs are a great way to do it. So, and it's important because you want to make sure you're tracking the effectiveness of your initiatives and then aligning any outcomes with business goals. For a lot of you learning and development folks, this is nothing new, right? And for a lot of folks, this is really nothing new. Um, for whatever reason, this step seems to just get passed over a lot at the beginning of project planning or thinking about problem solving or how we're going to go after a problem. So just make sure to take the time to understand and put a stake in the ground and say, hey, this is the impact that we think we can make. All right. So step 4 is about testing pilot projects. So here we talked about thinking about projects that are big, important, some of your hardest, problems to solve within your organization. But try to do this within one department or one area to test an AI solution within your organization. And some of you may already be past this point, right? So you're like, all right, we've got this department, they're doing one great thing over here. Now we want to go to this next one. That's perfect. We don't want to go with this kind of a little bit of this like kind of shotgun gun approach, which I think is a little bit of what's happening now because a lot of these tools are made available to the public rather than through like corporate access or through work access, which is the way things happen a lot. So a lot of these AI tools were put out to users before the organizations really started absorbing them, and the users started using them before organizations started getting used to it. And now we're a little bit backwards in the way that things normally kind of get implemented into organizations. So this is a way to kind of hone that in a little bit and just bring a scope to, okay, this is the solution that we're working on. These are the problems that we're solving. These are the metrics that we're going after. And here are the specific projects that are going to be impacting those metrics. My other kind of platform or soapbox I'll stand on here is keep investments in your AI tools small. There's a lot of tools out there. There's a website, there's an AI for that .ai. You will find over thousands of tools to use for different things. Very few of them free. Most of them have some kind of charge or fee for using what they do. If you'll scroll through the list, you'll see a lot of duplication. You'll see a lot of things like, well, Chat GPT does that. Why do I need this? Or Claude does this. Why do I need this? Right? So stay small. Don't go crazy. Don't go investing in a lot of different AI tools. Use things that you've already got at your disposal. Some of you are already using, paid version Chat GPT. Some of you might have Copilot, things like that. Just kind of keep the investments low so you can really minimize your own risk there. And I think that just helps kind of create some credibility when you can say, hey, we're going to focus on using one tool instead of this workflow or this suite of tool A, tool B, and tool C combined can make this Voltron Zord over here. Like I just don't think that's going to be very easy for your leadership to understand, and it's going to be hard for your folks to execute that workflow. So keep it simple. I guess in a short way, keep it simple. All right. Step 5, obviously, after you've gone through some iteration, gone through some problem solving with your test pilots, take your successful pilots to scale, right? Start to think about what worked well. What challenges do you need to address? Are there any other investments that need to be made? Is there any other infrastructure you need? Really start to think about how you can expand your AI tools to other departments or in other processes. But your success stories and the processes that you took to get there, or the steps that you took to get there, are going to be critical. So make sure you're kind of documenting what happened, how you got there, what you learned, and sharing that as part of your story out there. So, all right. So I ran through 5 steps here on an AI roadmap. Did that pretty quickly. What questions do you have about the 5 steps before we talk about responsible AI use? All good. All right, moving on. So now we'll talk a little bit about responsible AI use. I know this is a topic on the top of everybody's mind and a lot of business leaders' minds as well, but something that definitely is going to come up as you start to push more of an AI strategy in an organization. So uh, something to keep in mind, and I'd recommend this being, and this will be actually one of the takeaways to think about within your own organizations. But Cipher Learning actually did a survey earlier this year called "Bridging the AI Divide," AI Digital Divide. And in that survey, they found that 69% of employees feel unclear about AI expectations in the workplace. So not much clarity around usage, not much clarity around guidelines, what you can do, what you can't do. So basically 7 out of 10 people are just not clear on what they can do or how they can use AI in the workplace. Um, Curious, is that surprising to anyone? Is anyone seeing anything different in their organizations? Yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of reading on this, and it seems to be that's around the range of where a lot of the responses come in, just around, and how much people are really not being or not being given clear guidelines or guardrails on using AI. So, okay, all right. So responsible AI use and thinking about AI guidelines. This is really a way, and I like to kind of think about this of creating empowerment through clarity. And you could probably think about the word AI guidelines, and your immediate reaction might be, well, that's going to stifle innovation, or that's going to stop people from doing things. Actually, the opposite. It's actually the opposite. So when you give individuals, especially in this case, where you're using such a tool that's got a little bit of I don't want to, comes with some baggage, I guess we could say, with with an easy term, right? Like it's got some issues that people are concerned about. Providing this clarity allows your employees to feel better about how they're using AI, when they can use it, talking to other people about how they're using it, teaching other employees about how they're using it. Um, Guidelines make sure that your AI usage is in alignment with your business goals. And you can use the guidelines to have an emphasis on ethics and best practices, right? So just taking that time to set up what we'll call some guardrails or guidelines or whatever you want to call it, but just giving your folks an idea of what they can and can't do, where they think AI is going to go in the organization, what you can do with it, what steps you might want to take to make sure that you're being accurate, or the information that you're presenting or providing is of quality, right? Because a lot of times you might want to put your logo on some things, and you want that to be right if you're going to put something out there, or if you're going to write something. So you can use these AI guidelines to really kind of emphasize that approach, but it is really about empowering your employees to say it's okay to use AI, and it's okay to do it in this way, but here's how you don't do it. And then whatever you want to do for repercussions or however you want to manage that, but just providing that clarity will go a long way into enabling your folks to using it in the workplace. So Gallup also did a little bit of research here as well. So for the employees that are using AI in their work, 87% of them said that their organization has communicated a clear strategy, and they believe it will have an extremely positive impact on their organization. Right. So not only is it that communication of strategy around AI giving people the empowerment to use it and how to use it, but it's also making them feel much better about how it's being used in the organization, instead of just a tactic or a way to reduce headcount, which is probably the first concern that a lot of people come up with. If you can talk to your individuals, if you can talk to your teams, your employees around what the AI strategy looks like, how you're going to use it, how you shouldn't, it does make people feel much better about using it and much better about integrating it into their daily workflow. All right, so we're going to do a quick poll here. Pop these up. I want to hear from you all on a scale of 1 to 5. You should be seeing this. 1 not clear at all, 5 being extremely clear. How clear is the AI strategy in your organization? We got 4 responses in, 5, a couple more, 6. Okay, let's go ahead and look at these results here. So, of the 7 responses, it looks like most of us are in this neutral space, somewhat unclear. We've got 1 that came in not clear at all, 1 not or slightly unclear, and 1 extremely clear. Interesting. Interesting. Would anyone want to comment on any of these if they are the individual or on one of their responses here? Hey, thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
To Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Judy.
So being across a couple of different industries, in the school industry, they're I did the neutral somewhat unclear because in that they're trying to figure out where it should go, but it's very clear on what cannot be done right now. But they do know that it's going to be incorporated somewhat. In the chamber world, they're trying to utilize AI, but as far as the employees and the businesses, they're trying to educate them.
Yeah.
So again, that's where I went with the neutral, somewhat unclear. I just don't think
Yeah.
that there's any definitive yet on either end of the industries that I cross over.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting, especially on the the chamber side. You're working at the Chamber of Commerce, you're working with many different businesses and business owners and business leaders who all have their own initiatives
Right.
and ways that they want to innovate, and some have various restrictions. If they're in a financial space, they may
Yeah.
just be completely restricted from using
Right.
AI tools and stuff like that. So it does make that very, very messy, I guess you could say. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And across the industry, the business
Yeah.
across the different industries, I just don't think that there's enough education out there for people yet, or to see where the education would benefit them,
Yeah.
to see how they could use it to their benefit.
Yeah.
That's why I appreciate the sessions like this from you, because it helps
Yeah.
people in the direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah. I was gonna say that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make this, a little bit easier. And one of the lines out of the book that I had mentioned earlier was around, stop trying to think about what AI can do, but think about what it is,
Right.
and just use it for what it is for right now, right? Because you could think forever about what it could do, but think about what it is and what it can do now, and start to use it in those ways. I thought that was a really powerful line, anyway. So,
Yeah. Perfect.
all right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Jason, this is Jennifer. I would say that, there's such a proliferation in the tools and everything is in this state of constant evolution. I think it's really hard to, um, it's, I think like maybe in the past, people would come out with a strategy and leave their strategy in place for a while. The strategy almost needs to be kind of evolving as the tools evolve. So I wonder if that's part of, what's going on with organizations where it's almost like people can't even get their, they're almost like stepping in quicksand because as soon as they figure out their strategy, there's now chat GPT, now it is revealing its sources and it's giving you direct links.
Yeah.
It's changing so rapidly, it's hard to get a stake in the ground on what the strategy should be.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And I think um, I think it kind of emphasizes that, that businesses or organizations are going to have to kind of stay nimble here in this space if they're going to want to continue to make use of it and really kind of push or emphasize it. And then how do they do that, right? I mean, I'm going to put some an example template of some guidelines out here, but that really should really be a living document, right? Because these tools are changing and iterating and getting better and different almost every day. And how do your guidelines kind of absorb that and allow people to still have that space and freedom to really innovate? So yeah, that's great. All right. So the AI usage guidelines template. So we talked about, there's, I think we only had one organization where they had extremely clear guidelines anyway, and everybody else was either in the somewhat clear or less than that. So the AI usage guidelines template. So I'm actually going to just drop this into the chat here. So this is a template that I put together. Here's a Word document that you can really start to use and modify and do something within your own organizations or businesses that you're working with, just to start to get more structure around AI usage in your organization. Again, I think this will go a long way into empowering you and empowering your people to feeling better about using it, and then really kind of moving your whole strategy forward in terms of how it's going to be integrated all together. So feel free to use that template. Again, it's the Word document version of it. So make it your own, make it what works for you, your organization. This probably has too much maybe in it, and I did that on purpose. It's easier to take away things than it is to add sometimes. So if things don't apply to you, remove them. But try to use this as a way to, again, just start having conversations in your organization about how to implement and use AI. So. All right, so I know we're kind of closing up here, so I want to make sure we get to the Q&A piece. One piece of research that I found interesting, again, this came out of the McKinsey Global Survey on AI. They had asked the AI users around what kind of consequences, or how many of you have run into negative consequences from using generative AI as part of this survey. And as you can see here on the left, the number one response in terms of negative consequence and the cause of that is inaccuracy. So the number one response into negative consequences generated from using AI is inaccuracy. So again, thinking about your guidelines, how do you keep a human in the loop, right? How do you make sure a human is in the loop and reading anything that's put together that you're going to put out in the public or out into the space, whatever your space is, from an AI standpoint? How do you make sure you've got a human in the loop or some kind of quality control to ensure accuracy? And not just accuracy, the rest of these issues here as well, right? So cybersecurity, explainability, intellectual property, organizational reputation. Like, how do you keep a human in the loop to make sure that those things are not being negatively impacted in your organization by using generative AI? Again, when I saw this, I chuckled a little bit. I said, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense based on what I've seen, but I think it's always nice to kind of keep proving that point of, you need to have a human as part of this process. You still need to have a human as part of this process, especially with generative AI. All right, so a couple common challenges with AI that we see out there kind of generally anyway is just a lack of strategy or leadership buy-in. And again, that's what this conversation is hoping to make easier. And then a resistance to change among employees. So some ways we can kind of get around that are just around piloting projects to demonstrate value. Right? How do you get that leadership buy-in? By showing success on some small work, some small low-risk work that has value, and then creating a strategy around that, and then providing upskilling and reskilling for your employees. So making sure they have opportunities to learn how to use these tools in order to benefit their organization and themselves. All right, so real quick, I'll pop up one more poll here. Let's talk about barriers to AI implementation in your organizations. What kind of barriers are you seeing out there? And this is a multiple selection, so select as many of them that apply to you and then hit submit. And I know we had a couple of folks drop off here to get to the next meeting, so we may not have as many responses. But All right. So let's take a look at these results here. Okay, pretty spread out. The number one response looks like regulatory compliance. Okay, makes sense. And then we're getting into lack of strategy, limited expertise, skills gap. Those are the next ones. Okay, um, so as we kind of look at these here, I mean, regulatory compliance, there's it might be a hard one sometimes to get over, depending on what your business is and what you're doing. But you know, three of the next top responses here, you know, those are all things that we talked about here today, just around different ways to go about solving for those within your organizations. And I think as we think about what are the next steps, what are the things we can do here with this content, this material. I really think kind of solving for some of those gets a little bit easier now that we can kind of say, all right, we know this, and we know this is what's causing problems. So I did have a couple of success stories here from an AI perspective as well. I will share these slides so you can kind of read through those also on here, but I did want to make sure that we at least got to the last couple slides here and then some space to answer or ask some questions anyway. So what now? What's the next step here for all of you? So here's how I would start taking a look at this, right? Is start identifying, maybe the roadmap doesn't have to be a linear process. If you want to take on some different parts of this and start picking out hey, we just want to start with training and we want to start identifying some projects to work on, that's fine too. It's really meant to be kind of compiled and worked on together, but it doesn't necessarily have to be linear, step by step, right? So and the importance in conducting that readiness assessment, probably the biggest thing you're going to get out of that is understanding your skills gap. Where do people need to grow skills? Where do we need to gain skills? How do we need to change the roles that we're hiring for to be ready for AI to be integrated in our organization? And then getting into those the pilot projects as well. So you got the small projects that you can do, and then finding ones that you can do without having to make a large investment into, but have a lot of value to the organization. Number 4 is just really getting into those AI usage guidelines. So I gave you a copy that you can use. Feel free to do that and edit it, update it for your organization, whatever you want to do there. And then using cross-functional teams to manage AI initiatives. This just helps to make sure that you're sharing across parts of your organization on who's doing what with what and using what tools to make sure that you're not buying different access or buying accounts to the same things, or you're not in a space where you can share or have a cheaper reduced price. But it also just makes planning a little bit easier to know that, all right, marketing is doing this and sales is doing this related to AI. Let's make sure we're talking to them about their wins, successes, and things like that as well. So all right. So before we close up here, I do want to give a couple of moments to let you ask any questions that you have. I know some folks got to go to their next meeting as well. So if that's the case for you, thanks for jumping on, but happy to stay here for some questions. And Maya, I see you're curious about the success stories. So we can take a look at those here in a second also. Any questions out there? Okay. Sounds like we're all good. So again, thank you for your time today. I know we ran through a lot of information here pretty quickly, but I hope that you were able to grab some things and start to think about how this is going to work within your organization. So I will send out the slides after the session today, and I'll also send out the copy of the usage guidelines in case you didn't grab it from here. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Always happy to talk about AI integration in your organizations. So,
Thanks, Jason.
all right. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, everybody. Hey, Maya, I can flip back here for you for a couple slides if you want to, be able to stay on. So Maya, here's just a couple of the quick success stories that I grabbed. So the first one was a company called Sweet Bio. So they're actually using AI to create educational materials for their patients. So it's actually simplifying their patient education process, or enabling their patient education process, that enables them to provide better patient outcomes and satisfaction as part of their work. So this is actually a small business that was founded uh, by some Puerto Rican siblings, and they're using let's see what, oh yeah, collagen and manuka honey for their treatments anyway. But they've been able to use AI as a tool to create that patient education that they did not have before. So, and then Guthrie, the Guthrie Clinic, actually is using AI to, they created what they call a virtual command center. So it adds tools that they call, or that they have, telesitting and virtual nursing, that actually cut their nurse turnover from 25% to 13%. So it's actually when you read deeper into the case study anyway, it talks more about just lessening their workload from an engagement standpoint, and things like that. So yeah. So they had some significant savings out of that. $7 million reducing the need for travel nurses. So they were able to optimize their own efficiency. And then they're also saving 30 minutes per shift on paperwork and documentation through using these tools as well, which also allows them to take in more patient transfers every month in addition. So yeah, a couple of success stories, and I'll include those with the information as well. I didn't have it here. I've got a slide that includes resources. It includes some of the studies that we looked at, as well as the book, link to the book as well. So you can take a look at those things as well. So I'm looking at your chat here. Major challenges: the accuracy and consistency of accurate data, even from a paid version of ChatGPT. I completely agree. I've tried to use, even it gets frustrating at times when, if I ask it to review a document for me and pull some facts, and then I read it and I'm like, no, that is not the fact. Like, you've mixed up numbers and information. Like, it still struggles sometimes, even in the paid versions, to analyze documents and information the way I want. A tool that is very good about this, and we haven't used it yet today, is actually Google's Notebook LM. You might have tried that out or might have used it. It's gained some popularity recently because of its use as kind of a podcasting tool. It creates a podcast based on documents that you upload. But what Google Notebook LM is really good about doing is analyzing documents or information that you upload to it. And it only analyzes those documents. So it doesn't use other data or information that it's been trained on outside of. It only analyzes those documents and allows you to ask questions about those documents, and it can provide those back to you in a different context. So maybe try that out, Google Notebook LM, to see if that does any better of a job for you in terms of just consistency and accuracy of information. So could be something that works. Is the security for that data uploaded? So Judy, are you talking?
So if you're uploading data, right?
Uh-huh.
And like, so even in the Google Notebooks LM,
Yeah.
how secure is that? And you're saying it doesn't pull external data, but will that go into the external database once you're completed with it? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. So to the second question there, at least as of right now,
Yeah.
Google is not using documents, data, or information that you upload into Notebook LM to further train their models.
Okay.
So they're not using it down the road. Now the tool is completely free right now. They might change that if they go to like a paid tier. If you want to pay to keep your stuff private, you can do that. But right now, completely free. They're not using any of your information, questions, or data to train their models. And then in terms of keeping the data kind of private and secure that you're uploading, I would, take the steps to make that data private and secure before you upload it, right? So,
Gotcha.
if you're trying to upload customer information, I would take out any names, addresses,
Right.
anything like that, and give it a unique identifier, right? Customer
Okay.
123, something that
Right.
only you internally would be able to know or identify that person with, but just give them a unique identifier in that way to upload out of the start that makes your data more anonymous. That is the way that I've always used it in terms of data analysis and being secure. It's just anonymize my data as much as I need, create some kind of code that I can connect data back, right? When it gives me
Right.
my new data back, how do I, then take it back to Excel or whatever I'm using to make sure I've got everything aligned. Like employee numbers, right? Employee
Right.
numbers, used to be like socials. That was a very popular employee number. Now it's some kind of random digit sequence, right? But there's always that sequence that follows you around throughout, employment and stuff like that. So that's how I would do it anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?